understand you're some type of knockout artist. And he's like, yes, sir, I was 19-0 over in the Philippines when I was in the Army. Chesty at this point flips out. The Army? You were in the fucking Army?
You're getting soft, brother.
Now, obviously, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but this
Yeah, I'll say, you got a Marine say, wait, you were Army badass? Okay, you're not Marine badass.
Conversation went something along the lines of, why don't you explain to me why I would let somebody softened by the United States Army lead my Marines into combat? I have...
What's up, everybody? Kelsey Scarecrow here, back reacting to another video to get those 10s and 20 views. The name of the game is Views. The name of the game is I try to find a Sabu compilation highlight reel video to do, because unfortunately Sabu passed away. Rest in peace, Sabu. But the one I found was, it sucked. Not good. So, let's go back to the well. Something that I know a lot of people like to watch reactions of. And it is the Fat Electrician. Today we are reacting to 15 Marines versus 3,000. The Unstoppable John... Well, it's probably like Basilone. I don't know. Let's see what Nick has to say about the Unstoppable. Nick, please take it away, good sir.
I'm just going to level with you. I've been making YouTube videos for about 3 years now, and during that time, I've gotten recommendations for hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, he does it better than a lot of people, including me, because I've been doing this for 3 years, and I suck at it. Also, I don't have, like, that autism go, like, deep dive research into every, like, facet of something.
Thousands of different topics to do videos on. Some of them I've done, some of them I haven't gotten around to yet, some of them I'll never do because they don't interest me, and then there's another category of topics that I've actively avoided because, to be honest with you, they intimidate me because the stories are that incredible and I'm worried that I'm not going to do them justice. This is one of those.
There's also, at least with the third part of it, there is the unbelievable factor to it. Not saying it's not true, I'm just saying some of these old war stories, especially like World War I, World War II, are so insane that a lot of people would not believe it. Like, they had to like tone stuff down in like historical fact videos because it was that insane. But let's see this.
Today we're talking about one of the greatest Marines of all time, an undefeated boxer with a 100% knockout rate and probably the greatest machine gunner to ever live, John Basilone. He is easily...
Basilone. I was not that far off. But undefeated boxer? That's crazy as shit.
One of the most recognizable and renowned warriors in American military history, and for good reason. He has received the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross, and the only reason he got the Navy Cross is because they quit letting people get the Medal of Honor twice. And we're going to get to his incredible...
Yeah. Oh, so he's after John Daly?
Incredible story right after a
Jim
word
Daly.
from our
What up,
sponsor.
Uh-oh, here we go. Let's
Yeah,
call.
babe, what's up?
Hey, I need a boombox.
Okay,
boombox
I'm gonna
that
get
again.
you
Okay,
one.
I see this one. I see this
All
one.
right, I'll go get it now. Love you.
Love you.
All right, bye.
1 hour later.
Where's that boombox that I asked for?
Oh, it's right here. I got it for you.
What is this?
The boombox.
No, I wanted something to play music with.
Oh, that
Should have been more specific. Should have been more specific.
kind of boombox. Yeah, I got this instead.
Okay, we'll go to the store and get me a boombox so I can listen to music.
Can I keep this one still?
I don't care.
This video is brought to you by Delete Me, okay? Super simple business model. You give them money, they turn around and they make sure that online data brokers are not selling your personal information online. Okay, here's the deal. Pretty much anytime you use a free service on the internet and you click that little box that says, I agree to the terms and conditions, you've basically just agreed to allow them to harvest as much of your personal information as humanly possible. They then turn around and sell that to online data brokers, and that's how they can afford to offer you a free service. But when you have Delete Me, they go and they monitor all of these online data brokers for your personal information, and then if they find it, they submit all the opt-out forms on your behalf, so they have to take down and stop selling that information. So when you buy Delete Me, you're not actually buying anything, you're just buying your way out of all the negative consequences of all the free shit that you've already gotten. And because they continue to monitor those data brokers, you're buying yourself out of all the future negative consequences of all the free shit that you haven't even gotten yet. So if you want to give Delete Me a try, there's going to be a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video.
Today, you don't mind the way...
Sorry. He gets free pass because he never copyright claims anybody. He's actually okay with people reacting to his videos because A, gets him more views, views, and B, he's making a ton of money off the ad. So yeah, go right ahead, dude.
John Basilone was born on November 4th, 1916 in Buffalo, New York, and spent his entire childhood growing up in Raritan, New Jersey. He was the sixth of
Jersey. Raritan. Where the hell is Raritan? Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, he's basically just how like Edison, New Brunswick. So suburb of Philly, suburb of New York City. You could take the train in within like an hour.
Of 10 children with 2 older brothers, and both of his parents were first-generation immigrants that had just moved here from Italy. And like pretty much all World War II vets that we've ever talked about, he grew up in poverty during the Great Depression. Despite that, his father truly believed that America was the greatest place on earth. It was the land of opportunity, and he instilled that in all of his kids. Growing up with 2 older brothers in New Jersey, John got really tough really quick as a kid.
Wait a second, you're gonna tell me an Italian from North Jersey? That's original.
He was extremely stubborn. He rode that line between bravery and stupidity with everything he did, and he was not particularly good at school. He could never pay attention in the classroom, but he excelled at anything athletic, and he never shied away from a fight. When he was 7 years old, he famously decided that he was going to make a 1,000-pound bull that had nearly killed 3 grown men previously his pet.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
People don't know. I'm not sure about Jersey back then. New Jersey is the weirdest state you can live in because A, the size of it. You know, within like 2 to 3 hours of anywhere in New Jersey, you can get to 2 major cities, a farm, a mountain, woods, and the beach. It's like, oh, like, I'm like 2 hours from Philly. And it's like, alright, cool, I want to go to Philly. Hour, there you go, done. Oh, New York City, not that much further. I want to go snowboarding. Poconos. I want to go here. Oh, by the way, we have the blueberry capital of the world in Hamilton, and the cranberry people, Ocean Spray. Yeah, they're all in New Jersey. So, like, what the hell?
So 7-year-old John, with 0 fear in his body, hops in this pen with this bull and goes to pet it. The bull charges him. He dodges it. The bull charges him again. He dodges it again. And finally, the bull just kind of squares up with him. And John slowly walks up to this bull. And right as he's about to place his hand on the bull's head, right between his horns, the bull rears down and launches John 20 feet through the air, and he lands flat on his back.
Sounds about right, honestly, yeah. Oh, it's just jackass? Yeah, that's jackass. That's Wee Man. I'm getting hit.
Luckily, John makes it out of the pen okay. Needless to say, that bull did not become his pet, but it goes to show that he is either gifted with an extreme amount of bravery or stupidity, and only
There's a song that plays at the end of like a lot of the Jackass movies. If you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough.
time is going to tell which one it is. Now, around this same point in his childhood, John and his brothers end up going to the local movie theater, and they watch a movie about a boxer. And this movie inspires John and his 2 older brothers to all want to become boxers, but the problem is there's no boxing gym in Raritan. He can't afford any boxing equipment, so the 3 brothers just start trying to mimic the training from the movie. They all start jumping rope. The problem is they don't have jump ropes and they can't afford it, so they start jumping rope with a clothesline. They started chopping wood with an old rusty axe they found. They start doing focus mitt drills with their bare hands because they can't afford any equipment. And this goes on for the rest of his childhood.
Sounds like standard brothers. I know a family that had 3 brothers, and they had the sock and boppers, and we boxed in their basement.
Academically, John struggles in the classroom, and at school, he's not very popular either. And it's not that he's dumb. He can do everything. He can read, he can write, he can do math. He just can't stand sitting there for 6 to 8 hours a day looking at a chalkboard and some teacher droning on. He would zone out, and then next thing he knows, the bell would ring and class would be over, and he didn't pay attention to any of it. Because of this, after he graduates from 8th grade, he
Sounds like he had ADD and should have been put into other stuff.
informs his parents that he is not going to be attending high school and he's going to go out and get a job and start contributing to the family. Because he's 14 at the time, there's not a whole lot of jobs that he can do, so he gets the first one he can get his hands on, and that is being a caddy at the local golf course. And at first, John absolutely loves it. He's outside.
Dude, that or be a lifeguard would have been the other one.
He's moving around, he's earning money to help his family. All these rich businessmen are giving him these huge tips because he does such a great job. And when he's not hauling golf clubs, he's hanging out at the golf course clubhouse with all these rich businessmen, and they end up teaching him how to gamble, and he gets really good at that, and he starts making money doing that too. And this goes on for years.
Corrupting the youth. Standard practice throughout history.
And as John turns 16 and then eventually 17, it's getting to the point where he can go out and get a real job. And John absolutely hates the notion of it. He resents the fact that society is telling him he has to go out and get some monotonous 9-to-5 job that he just has to do every single day for the rest of his life. In his mind, it's going to be just like sitting in that classroom, zoned out, and John doesn't know what to do because that's not what he wants in life. Not knowing what to do, John goes to his church and he's praying about it. He's just sitting there, he's hanging out.
Oh yeah, an Italian back then. Oh yeah, they're super religious. I'll say back then you could probably just if you don't know what to do, military is never a bad option. Kind of regret not doing it myself.
He's thinking about what he wants to do for the rest of his life. While he's there, a Catholic priest by the name of Father Russo comes up and starts talking to John. You know, he's clearly troubled, wants to know if he can help. And John ends up asking Father Russo, that he's known pretty much his entire childhood, like, hey, Father, you know, you were an athletic guy, you were in college, you could have been a doctor, you could have been a professional athlete, you had the whole world at your fingertips. How did you decide that you wanted to become a priest? And Father Russo told him that he just felt a calling, that that's what he was supposed to do. So he did it. And he told John that if he listened, God would probably give him a calling too. So John takes that advice and he's
pretty good standard practice right there. No, okay, cool, good job, Father. Not giving him the answers, but, you know, kind of hoping he gets to the right path.
Trying to listen or look out for any sign that maybe God's going to give him. And then one day he has what he describes as a vision that he's supposed to become a warrior. And because of this, John joins the United States Army in 1934. Now, the problem is John doesn't really know what he wants to do in the Army, but he knows that his calling is to be a warrior. So he wants to be the biggest, baddest, most untouchable warrior on the battlefield, which is obviously being inside of a tank.
Best job I ever had.
The problem is that
Yeah, you're the biggest, baddest, and probably safest at the same time, to an extent. But unfortunately, to be a tanker, you gotta be kind of short.
John thinks that being cooped up inside of a tank is going to be just like sitting inside that classroom, and he absolutely hates the notion. He wants to be outside, moving around, doing things that are physical, so he picks the next best thing on the battlefield, a machine gun. And this suits John for multiple reasons. One, he's kind of a bigger guy by the standards of the day, right? He's 5'9", but he's 185 pounds with almost no fat on him. And on top of that, he's been doing...
Damn, like, that's like a middle linebacker in football back in the day. I know everyone here is 5'9", and like, oh, short king. The average height back then was probably closer to 5'11", to be honest.
Nothing but lugging around golf clubs for the past 4 years, giving him a ton of stamina, which is good news because he's going to need it, because the machine gun back in 1934 was the Browning 1917.
Look at that thing. And if memory serves me correct, the front looks like that because they had to pour water in it so it doesn't overheat.
Which was a fucking machine gun that required 7 quarts of water to cool the barrel down. Between the gun...
Yes, I know things. I do know some shit.
And the tripod, the entire thing is 103 pounds, not including the ammunition. And John is absolutely obsessed with this gun. He knows absolutely everything about it. He knows where to place it on a battlefield, how to set it up, how to clear every different type of malfunction. They have competitions on how to disassemble.
So he took his job really serious, and that probably helped him out.
And reassemble it and run a functions check completely blindfolded, and John wins those competitions every single time.
Whoa, I thought you said you joined the Army. This photo right here says USMC, and that is not Army.
Check, completely blindfolded, and John wins those competitions every single time. After finishing his training, John gets shipped out to the Philippines, and he spends the next 3 years there between 1934 and 1937, and it kind of fucking sucks the entire time. Now, at this point in time, the geopolitical climate is absolutely heating up, and war could break out, and if that war breaks out, John is obviously here to defend the Philippines. And as far as John can tell, if war should break out, the Army's only plan is to have all of its troops retreat to a tiny island called Corregidor and try to hold that.
Never heard of Corregidor.
Now, this is extremely disheartening to the point that it pisses John off because remember, he's here to be a warrior. That's his higher calling in life. And now he's over here in the Philippines. It's hot. Everything's fucking wet all the time. There's fucking bugs everywhere. He's getting malaria. Everybody else is getting malaria. And he's sitting here just suffering, basically waiting for war to break out. And then when the war does break out, the first thing they're going to do is retreat. That's not what he signed up for. So this bothers John all the way down to his core the entire time that he's there. Despite that, he tries to make the best of it, which is really hard at times because it's very clear to John that the army either doesn't give a fuck about him or just doesn't have the funding to take care of him the right way because they have basically nothing while they're there.
Yeah, you gotta figure this is pre-World War II, during the Great Depression. The military probably was like, make do.
Living in these tiny little huts, they have very little supplies. They're literally having to eat goat half the time, which John said was absolutely disgusting. And on top of that, John absolutely hates the rainy season in the tropics because he cannot stand the wool army socks when they get wet on his feet. It drives him absolutely
I hate the modern day socks when they're wet on my feet.
insane. It bothers him so much that it becomes a well-known thing in his unit that when you're gambling against John Basilone, he is willing to accept dry cotton socks as currency to gamble with when you play against him, which is pretty much all he does the entire
No, if that's your biggest pet peeve, going, we want money. I want your goddamn socks.
time that he's there. He's either sleeping, drinking, gambling, or trying to bang the locals like everybody else. He
It's a standard military practice.
actually ends up falling in love with a local woman by the name of Lolita that he describes as the most beautiful woman in the world. So much so that he actually gets her name tattooed on him. The constant drinking and gambling gets old after a little while, so he decides that he's going to start training to box again. So he gets back to running, jumping rope, starts sparring with any other army guy that's willing to
Also, I figure he's also probably now could get actual boxing training.
spar with him, and then eventually he ends up taking his first fight in the army for boxing. Takes his first match, goes in there, knocks the guy out in the first round, takes another match, knocks him out too. After a little while, he is the best boxer in his unit, and then he goes and competes, becomes the best boxer in the army, and then he goes, competes again, knocking out the Navy's champion, becoming the best boxer in the U.S. military.
Not bad, not bad. And you also know that had to eat the Navy guys alive that he took out their champion and this random army guy.
Around this point in time, he ends up getting the nickname Manila John, and all the promoters back home hear about this badass over in the Philippines knocking everybody out. So he's getting letters from all these boxing promoters wanting him to come over and fight their pro champion over here, this pro guy over there. Basically, he's got a really good professional boxing career lined up the minute he goes back home. Eventually, he ends up beating everybody in the United States military, 19 wins, 19 knockouts, at which point he can either just wait and go back home and
Not bad right there. And also, you figure that's like pro-am. Like, not, you could probably like easily sign up for the Olympics. He's not taking a professional fight. So
turn pro, or he can go up a weight class. He doesn't really want to do either, and his enlistment is coming to an end. John decides that he does not want to go up a weight class. He definitely does not want to re-enlist in the army because these past 3 years have fucking sucked. And he
okay, that's just like, how did he end up in the Marines? Because the army sucked. That's basically what I just heard. There, heard it.
doesn't want to go back home and become a pro boxer because he doesn't think that that's the warrior calling that he had from his vision. So John finishes up his enlistment in 1937 and goes back home and moves in with mom and dad all over again, and he is right back at square one, not knowing what to do with the rest of his life. He goes right back to being a caddy at the golf course, and at this point, mom and dad are getting worried because, I mean, he's a 21-year-old man, and this is the 1930s. He should be having kids by now, and he's over here working some part-time high schooler job. He needs to go and get a real job and make something of himself and start building a family. And while nobody's saying it out loud, John feels that constant pressure, both from his family.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off right there. They are honestly telling him what the hell, because this is the 1930s, early 1940s. Yeah, no, they are telling, especially the Italians, where are my grandkids? Like, all that crap. You know, he has brothers. Mom is definitely saying, like, where are the grandkids so I can raise
Family and
yell at
his community, and he just doesn't know what to do. So he basically just goes back to what he was doing in the Philippines, right? He's carrying golf clubs during the day, he's gambling, he's drinking, and he is fucking everything that moves. You gotta realize, he's the 21-year-old Army veteran that just got back from the military. He's 185 pounds, built like a brick shithouse with 19 knockouts. He's seen as a very eligible bachelor by all the young ladies in town.
Yeah, except for the fact that he doesn't have a good job. That's the only thing that is holding him back. But anything else about it, yeah. Definitely.
So he's doing stuff with them. He's even banging the old widow that runs the flower shop down the street. I'm not kidding. So that's going on for a while. Then eventually his dad confronts him like, Johnny, what the fuck are you doing with your life? You need to get your shit together. So John is like, I know. So he goes, he gets a real job. He ends up being a delivery guy for a laundry service. He does that for a couple of months. Fucking hates every single second of it. But
I can imagine that, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now mom and dad are proud of him. You know, he's gone out in the world. He's got a real job. He's doing the whole, family thing. Soon he'll probably get a wife, settle down, have kids, do what, you're supposed to do. He doesn't make it there very long.
Especially in a Catholic, Italian Catholic family. Oh, yeah.
He ends up quitting because he just can't stand to do it. His parents are super disappointed right out of the gate, at which point John is like, I'm going to move out. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'll go out on my own. So he moves to a different state, gets a job with the gas company. So he does that for like 6 months. He becomes one of the top employees at the company. He's getting along fine. He does the work really well, but he absolutely hates it. He doesn't feel like he's fulfilling his higher calling. And around this point in time, all the news is coming out about the massacre at Nanjing, Japan invading China, killing hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. There's stories.
Oh, this is the Boxer Rebellion. We heard this with the last Marine we watched.
It's coming out about Japanese officers beheading innocent Chinese civilians until their arms are so fatigued that they can no longer lift up their swords. And this bothers John to his core because even though his time in the army wasn't great and he hated it the entire time, he still considered himself a professional and did not understand why another professional military would do that to innocent civilians. And with this, John has his second vision, basically a more clear version of his first vision. He is supposed to be a warrior, but he is supposed to fight the Japanese. And with this, he just...
Yeah. Why going after a specific group? But all right, whatever. Cool. Let's
decides
go.
that he's going to re-enlist in the United States military, but this time he's not going with the Army. He told his mother, and I quote, "The Army's too soft, Ma. I'm going with the Marines."
Oh, this is the second time they just said, like, yeah, Army sucks.
There's DIY.
There's an ad that I'm going to mute and then skip in about 2 seconds.
So in July of 1940, at the age of 23, John Basilone joins the United States Marine Corps. And you got to realize at this point...
Ooh, he's once again the old guy, though.
John is 23 years old and there's a draft going on, so pretty much everybody else that he's going through training with is some 18-year-old snot-nosed kid. And John is just... he's getting through it. So he crushes basic training, goes off to machine gunner school for the...
Yeah, because he's already done it already once.
Marine Corps, and while he's there, he just starts hustling all of his classmates. He sits there and very loudly and very vocally expresses frustration in his inability to disassemble and reassemble the machine gun, which obviously he knows how to do.
Oh yeah, no, this is classic pool shark. Like, God damn, I just suck at this. No.
Extremely proficiently, but he plays it off like he can't, and then he suckers other young cocky Marines in to a challenge of assembling and disassembling it and running a functions check, and whoever wins money. And then as soon as they put money on the table, he just takes everybody's shit, including their socks.
Oh yeah, you don't just stop the habit of taking someone's socks away. Also, back then, that's extra insulting.
4 in a row. You know something? This is like the luck of the Irish, only I'm not Irish, so you figure it out.
So he gets done with training. He's older. He's more mature. He already knows everything. Very quickly, he ends up becoming a gunnery sergeant. He's in charge of 11 other men and 2 machine guns. And he takes being a leader very seriously. He
Let's say he found his calling there.
makes all the men in his section train and retrain over and over and over again with the machine gun, how to set them up, where to set them up, absolutely everything, to the point that they are just as good as he is. Then they end up...
There's a mentality when you train somebody in anything. It's like, you train them to be just as good or better than you, then when it all goes awry, you don't need to worry about, oh no, what's going on? Yeah, you know what you're doing already.
Getting shipped out to Puerto Rico for amphibious landing training. He's back in the tropics, absolutely hates it. Everything's wet, his feet are wet, his socks are wet, there's fucking bugs everywhere. He doesn't like it there. He ends up training there for an entire year. And as per usual, when he's not training, they're going out, they're gambling, they're drinking, and they're fucking everything that moves. At this point in time, he becomes kind of infamous for every time he gets hammered, he turns his hat, also known as a piss cutter, sideways to let everybody know, hey, I'm fucking hammered. So after...
Hey, at least there's a sign there.
a year, they get done with training, they're just waiting on orders on where they're going to go. Paris Island is apparently full, so according to the rumors, the U.S. military has went out and built an entire new base for the Marines, and this base is fucking awesome. There's a new movie theater, there's an athletic facility.
I don't believe this for a damn second. The military doing something like that.
Facility. There's a new chow hall that serves steak and lobster and cake and ice cream every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everybody is fucking pumped because they've been hanging out in the tropics where it sucks, basically living in tents, and now they're finally gonna go and get appreciated for the elite fighting unit that they are. So they get shipped out, they travel, they make it all the way to New River, North Carolina, where the new base is, and they get there. There's nothing there. There's like a couple of buildings for the officers, and then it's just a fucking swamp. They have no mission. There's no training schedule. They're literally just existing, living in tents in a swamp. Because at this point in time, America isn't in the war yet. So basically, they're one of the most highly trained units that America has, but they have nowhere for them to go. So they basically just like set them off to the side and told them.
It's like, all right, you. It's our elite warriors. What should we do with them? Leave them alone in North Carolina. What? Just trust me on this. It'll work.
To go camp in a swamp for a while, and it sucks the entire time. So they're there for a couple of months, and then they get word that they're going to a different new base, and this base surely is the base they were originally talking about, right? With the chow
No.
hall and the steak and the lobster and the cake and the ice cream and the athletic facility and the new barracks. Everything's going to be awesome. The new base is actually ready. They ship out. It's a very short drive. They come to this new place, Camp Lejeune. Also, no buildings, just a fucking swamp.
Is it close?
Very.
So now morale amongst the men is at an all-time low.
Yeah, you gotta think it absolutely sucks out just as fast. Like, damn it.
Absolutely sucks. John is trying to do everything he can to keep spirits up. He makes it standard practice that everybody under his command is going to learn boxing. He's going out, he's teaching his men how to box. The circuit.
Hey, it's. If you run out of ammo, you're not gonna run out of your fist, and if they get close enough to you, knowing how to defend yourself is great. Especially if people hear that you're a Marine back then, they couldn't join. I don't want to prove that they want to be tough guys, so.
This in town actually donates their old tent and they set it up, and that becomes their new like Madison Square Garden. He's hosting fights. Boxing is like the only thing they have. But John doesn't really have any interest in boxing himself, and after the word got out that he's Manila John with 19 knockouts, not a lot of people wanted to box him anyways, so.
Yeah. Hey, let's not get our ass kicked by one, our platoon leader, and two, the guy who knows what he's doing.
Works out. But there has been several occasions where a card game went wrong and he got into a fight and knocked a couple of people out. And then they get a new commander that apparently is a badass, and one of the first things this commander does is calls John Basilone into his office. Okay, this cannot be good. John is nervous. This guy is allegedly
God damn it.
a hard ass. He's supposedly one of the most decorated men in the U.S. military at this point in time. He's got 2 Navy crosses. He's already served in Nicaragua.
Was this Dan Daly? I remember they now. Is this Dan Daly?
He served in the Banana Wars, and now John has to go talk to him, and he doesn't know why. So John walks into his office, and this guy is intimidating. He is built like a brick shithouse. He looks like a refrigerator with a smaller refrigerator on top of it, and that's
Okay, not Dan Daly unless he's playing a joke.
his head. This dude's got the biggest barrel chest he's ever seen. His side profile is 2 feet thick. It's starting to make sense why this guy's nickname was Chesty. Yeah, John's new commander is the legendary Marine Chesty Puller. And
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Chesty lays into him immediately. Like, I understand you knocked some people out after a card game. And he's like, yes, sir. And he goes, I understand you're some type of knockout artist. And he's like, yes, sir. I was 19-0 over in the Philippines when I was in the Army. Chesty, at this point, flips out. The Army? You were in the fucking Army?
You getting soft, brother?
Now, obviously, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but this conversation
Yeah, I'll say, you got a Marine say, wait, you were Army badass? Okay, you're not Marine badass.
went something along the lines of, why don't you explain to me why I would let somebody softened by the United States Army lead my Marines into combat? I have heard nothing but bad things about you, John. You are a gambling womanizer that would sleep with 2 women at a time if you could afford it. At which point,
That's just very Marine-like. Just saying.
John responds, and I quote, even when I can't afford it, sir. At which point, Chesty cracks a smile and says, God damn it, you're going to make a fine Marine. Pull up a seat. They have a cigar together.
I'll say, that sounds very Marine-like.
And start drinking, and then Chesty has John tell him all about the Philippines. Yeah, John Basilone is now homies with the most decorated Marine of all time.
¿Ha tenido un accidente? Comuníquese con las oficinas. Is it
God
Brandon?
damn it, Mike. Yeah, that is right there, like, the two biggest badass just eyeing each other down. Like, alright, let's see what you got. It's like, yeah, we're just screwed with you.
Shortly after this, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. They've committed the cardinal sin. They've fucked with America's boats. It is now game on. At this point in time, John's unit is one of the most highly trained units in the United States military, and they are immediately shipped out to Samoa on their way to the Pacific for more training. They spend about 4 months there. They train a bunch on amphibious landings, but they also train on jungle warfare, trying to focus in on what they know the Japanese like to do. They know that the Japanese
Yeah, they like to hit and run, island hop, hide in the woods.
like night fighting, so they get a bunch of nighttime combat training, and then they know that the Japanese also like to infiltrate behind enemy lines and pretend to be one of your guys and then murder you in your sleep, so they develop a new system on how to make sure that somebody out in the darkness is actually one of your guys. Now, the tricky part is you need to make sure that both members in this communication are both on the same page and they both know that they're not going towards an enemy, so you're going to shout out one word and they're going to respond back with another word that's the password. And the words that they choose are weather and clear, because apparently you can't say those words with a Japanese accent.
Okay. Oh god, you had Eli do this?
Clear? Clear? Clear. 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 Clear.
Fucking Eli.
Clear.
So they get done training, then they're just
The whole accent's just your jaw muscles, like what you're so used to saying.
told to board a ship. They're not even telling them where they're going. They get out to sea after like 2 days once it's no longer a security issue, and they tell everybody over the loudspeakers, we're headed to Guadalcanal in the Pacific. There's an airfield there that we have to take and defend. Now,
That was literally the last video we watched with the airplane guy.
John is going to kind of be in the second wave. He is not there when the Marines make their first landing on Guadalcanal on August 7th, 1942. Now, those Marines experience very little resistance at first, and then 2 days later on August 9th, the Japanese Navy rolls in on the naval detachment that had dropped off the Marines, and they attack them at night and catch them completely off guard, and they end up sinking 4 American cruisers, and the entire naval detachment is forced to retreat.
Yeah, the Joe Foss. This is the other half of the Joe Foss story. Yeah. I thought I was going to do this video, and I did.
The Marines on Guadalcanal. So for about that first week, the Japanese Navy just shells the Marines with naval gunfire and then tries to starve them out. The first major battle is on August 20th.
No. Artists on 2.
At the Tenaru River, when 800 Marines go toe-to-toe with 900 Japanese, killing 800 Japanese and only losing 44 Marines in return. After this, the Japanese realize 2 things. A, they're going to have to up their game if they want to go toe-to-toe with the Marines, and B, Henderson Airfield is apparently very important to the United States war effort, and they have to take it back no matter what. Henderson Airfield has a ridge right next to it today that's known as Edson's Ridge because it was defended on September 12th by Edson's Raiders. Edson's Raiders is comprised of
Marine Corps Raiders are pretty much like the Marines version of Rangers. Army Rangers, Navy SEALs. Yeah, the Marine Corps had what they called Raiders.
840 Marines that go toe-to-toe with 3,000 Japanese soldiers led into battle by Major General Kiyotake Kawaguchi. Utilizing the high ground and effective machine gun fire, Edson's Raiders absolutely crushed Kawaguchi's men. Over the course of 3 days, the Marines lost 31 men and killed over 600 Japanese soldiers and
Damn.
wounded at least 600 more. To the Japanese, this was considered the first major defeat of their
Yeah, I would definitely say that's a major defeat.
ground forces in over 2,000 years and brought immeasurable shame to that chain of command. General Kawaguchi's
Incredible shame to that command. Oh, that's words you don't want to hear if you're, Asian. Honor and pride are everything in that culture.
immediately relieved of command, and his boss, General Hayotake, takes control, and it becomes his life's mission to win back Henderson Airfield to restore his honor. By August 18th, the United States Navy is able to punch through, and John and the rest of the 7th Marines show up to reinforce the Marines on Guadalcanal. Over the course of the coming days, they offload all of the 7th Marines onto Guadalcanal, but on September 23rd, before all of the Marines have disembarked from their ships, they get ambushed at the Medicao River. Chesty Puller, hearing that some of his men are cut off and surrounded, commandeers the United States naval destroyer, the USS Ballard, takes it under.
You heard what he said, right? Chesty Puller commandeered a Navy ship. Yeah, No, that's just him going, this is mine now.
Under his command, gets it as close as he can to their position and calls in the naval gunfire on the enemy himself. He then loads up all the landing vessels that he has with as many Marines as he possibly can and begins leading them into the fight to save his men. And Chesty is right there leading from the very first Higgins boat, and
Of course he is. Where else that man would be?
it gets so bad from enemy gunfire coming in on these Higgins boats that the naval coxswain, the pilot of the ship, goes and starts turning the boat around, and all the other boats are going to start following. At which point, Chesty orders him to keep going, and he fights him on it, and Chesty pulls out his Colt 45 and says that he will shoot him himself if he doesn't steer that fucking boat to that beach. Chesty
I believe him. I don't think anybody's not believing him.
lands, goes out, saves his men. And to be clear, John wasn't there during the actual battle, but he saw all of this unfold. He heard about it, and it reinforced everything that he thought and knew in his heart, that if he wanted to be a good leader, he had to lead from the front and be willing to risk himself for his men. So all the Marines get out on Guadalcanal. The biggest objective in the war right now is defending Henderson Airfield.
Give me a second. Keyboard, as much as I love it, it's starting to crap out. So if it might just randomly think. So basically, yeah, he just watched the most notorious Marine ever just do that stunt. It's like, and his life mission is to be a warrior. Yeah, he's definitely inspired.
This is the most important stretch of land on the planet at this point in time. So John and his 11 men are set up on this ridge right outside Henderson Airfield. They have 2 foxholes, 1 machine gun team in each, and they are covering a 2,500 yard span of the Marine front line, and they absolutely cannot allow the Japanese to get.
Christ. 2 full football fields with the buffer for the fans.
Past it. On October 23rd, General Hayotake, who remember feels that he has been shamed by allowing his subordinate to lose to the Americans for the first time in 2,000 years. He is willing to die to win this fight, and he sends all the men that he has directly towards the Marine Corps' front line. And hundreds of them are headed directly towards John Basilone and his 11 men. The Japanese soldiers headed towards John and his men were covered in leaves for camouflage, and there were so many of them that Basilone's men said it looked like the jungle itself was coming to eat them. And while that is horrifying,
yeah, that's terrifying, the thing, especially out there where they probably heard like weird horror stories of like mythologies and whatnot.
you have to remember that John and his men have 2 heavy machine guns with overlapping fields of fire and the high ground. It's going to take a literal army to uproot John and his men. John and his men
Well, that's what they're bringing, so
start mowing down wave after wave of Japanese infantry, and they just keep coming because they are under the command of General Hayotake, and this man is willing to die to win his honor back, and he's willing to sacrifice all of his men as well. Not only are
yeah, he's willing to die for it after he, sends the tons and tons of meat shields at the enemy first.
John and his men metaphorically stacking bodies. They're literally stacking bodies to the point that it actually becomes a legitimate problem. John has to...
Yes, that was correct. I like how there's like spelling corrections in it. Then laying around our guns, we had to change the gun because if I had to mount it any lower, the probably effing pole would be there. I don't know. Nothing being piled there. Had to change my position.
To get out of the foxhole and push over piles of dead corpses because they're beginning to obstruct the view from his machine gun positions. They fight for hours, mowing down wave after wave of enemy, and by the end of the first day, John has lost 4 men and killed who knows how many Japanese in return. On the second day, they still weren't able to get past Basilone and his men, but they were able to punch through the Marine Corps line on John's right flank, and they surrounded John and his men. Okay, so at this point, on one hand,
so their KD is very high on that, to one hand. The other hand, they're going to have to start firing back towards the rest of the Marines due to the fact that they're going to be surrounded. Oof.
This is a horrible situation to be in. But on the other hand, this is exactly the type of shit Marines are into. Okay, this is what they call a target-rich environment. And now that they're surrounded, the enemy doesn't have anywhere else to go but to fight them. This is exactly what they want. The only problem now is that the rest of the force is cut off from him, so he can't get any more ammunition or water for the guns. And to make things worse, he's been fighting for so long, his fucking wool socks are wet. So at this point, John's like,
What I love about Nick is he'll find a point and it just kind of sticks to that like simple running joke. You always use blood to cool down the weapons. would
Fuck
work.
it, I'm gonna go get the ammo myself. He takes off his boots, he takes off his wet wool socks, grabs a machete and his Colt 45 1911, and takes off through enemy lines to go get more ammunition and water for his men. John not only makes it through the enemy lines barefoot, he actually gets more ammo, more barrels, and more water for the guns, and makes it back to his men. And over the course of
Yeah, I think the Japanese people are like, what the hell is this guy doing? He's barefoot, right? Yeah, he's barefoot. He has a pistol. He's back.
the next day, he does this 2 more times. John and his men continuing to fight the entire time, mowing down scores of enemy soldiers. But slowly, John starts losing more and more men. First it was 4, and then 2 more, and then he's lost 8 men, and then suddenly it was down to John and just 2 others. At this point, they had to improvise new tactics. They didn't have enough men to man 2 heavy machine guns. So John became the gunner, trying to make every single last round count. And then when John ran out of ammo on one gun, he would hop over to the other.
I'm about to say, this is easily the tactic of, you load that gun, I'll shoot this gun, you spot, and once this gun's out of ammo, we switch places.
Gun while his 2 men reloaded and refitted that initial gun, and they would just bounce back and forth fighting as long as they possibly could. This goes on for hours, and John and his men can't keep up. John would burn through all the ammunition in one machine gun before the next gun was ready, so John had to engage the enemy in hand-to-hand combat at their foxhole to buy his men more time to get the guns up. And then that goes on for hours. John Basilone kills 38 enemy soldiers at or in his foxhole in close quarters combat,
God damn, talk about a knockout artist. Whew.
buying his men more time. And just as things are starting to look really, really dark, like this is gonna be the end, dark, we're almost out of ammunition, we can't keep doing this, Chesty Puller comes through again, rallies the Marines, pushes back the Japanese forces, and restores the initial line. Over the course
Yeah, you gotta love Chesty. But John just proved that, I'm just as much of a badass. Look at all this that I just did.
the entire battle, not just John's section alone, the Marine Corps had managed to kill 2,500 Japanese soldiers, forcing them into a retreat. General Hayotake again had been defeated, and this time the blame laid squarely on his shoulders, and because of this, he commits, can't say that word on YouTube,
Hirikuri? I don't know with that. Yeah, it's the... Yeah. Which is also really stupid of the Japanese military, because you just took out one of your best military personnel because you did this honor.
Anyways, by the time reinforcements get to Basilone and his men, there is dead dudes absolutely everywhere. There's 38 of them in or around the foxhole. All of those kills were credited to Basilone in close quarters combat, and his fields of fire look like the most aerodynamic mass grave you've ever seen. There was so many they quit counting after 150. For the next 18
That is crazy. Like, they didn't get like a full count. They just were like, yeah, now we're good. You got
days, the Marines
No.
launched counterattacks, chasing the retreating Japanese forces all over Guadalcanal before eventually kicking them off the island altogether. But the fight's not over yet. The Japanese are going to come back, and they're going to come back with everything they absolutely have. Off the coast of Guadalcanal is a bunch of Japanese battleships, and they are there to secure a route for more Japanese soldiers to make it onto the beach through landing craft. But this time, the U.S. Navy is going to surprise them in the middle of the night. There's this crazy battleship commander by the name of Willis Lee, a.k.a.
Oh my god, like, what is this? All the big heroes are coming in. We did Willis Ching Lee. We did a video on him. That was like a long time ago. Not long on this channel, but yeah, here we go.
Ching Lee, a 5-time Olympic gold medalist sharpshooter and tactical genius that has just pioneered and perfected the method of using radar to find targets for naval gunfire, giving them an unprecedented advantage at night fighting. On the night of November 14th, he engages the Japanese battleship detachment with his ship, the USS Washington, sinking their flagship, the IJN Kirishima. This forces the rest of the Japanese naval detachment to retreat, squashing any hope of Japanese reinforcements hitting the beach, effectively securing the island and turning the entire tide of the war in the Pacific.
Yeah. When all the badasses show up at one time, it's a good day.
By January 1st, 1943, John and the rest of the 7th Marines were sent to Melbourne, Australia to recover from months of intense combat. And once the Marines get there, it turns into one gigantic party because now the people of Australia have been living under the worry that the Japanese were going to invade them next. And now they're tucking their tail and they're running from the Marine Corps and the United States Navy. The Marines are heroes to every single person in Australia. The Australians were so grateful to the Marines, it said that there wasn't a single bar or home in Australia that wasn't open to a United States Marine. And
I fully believe that too. And some of the crazy stories that came out because of that, the devil duck.
Couldn't pay for one of their own drinks even if they wanted to. For an entire month, John Basilone is wearing his piss cutter sideways, absolutely hammered. And then one day he wakes up at like noon, probably still half drunk, feels like he's been hit by a truck, and his arm is just absolutely on fire. So he sits up out of bed, he looks over at his arm is just all bandaged up, and he has no idea why or what happened. And he's like worried that he like did something stupid, he jumped off a roof, broke his arm, something happened. He doesn't really know. Regardless of what
Oh God, he was blackout drunk and he's trying to worry about
happened or how hurt he is, he can't really do anything about it, and he's starving and he can do something about that. So he doesn't even bother to look at his arm or see what's underneath that bandage. He just staggers out of the barracks and goes to the chow hall. So he's in the chow hall getting food, and another Marine comes up to him and is like, yeah, death or dishonor, right? And John Basilone's like, what? He goes, your tattoo that you got last night. Everybody was watching and cheering. And he's like, and he looks
Yeah.
underneath the bandage, and he's now got a gigantic tattoo on his arm that says death or dishonor. Now at this point, John is like partially relieved that he's not severely injured, but on the other hand, he's like, man, I got so hammered I got a tattoo and didn't even know it. Maybe I should tone it down just a little bit. Which
Also, the town back then, that his mom probably was not happy.
works out because by this point in time, the party's kind of dying down. The Marines go into this like recovery type mode. They're kind of like out in the woods, living in barracks and tents, and they're just kind of hanging out until they get more orders. So that's fine. That's great. That's wonderful. The only annoying thing that's really going on at this point in time is in Australia, there's this fucking bird that's got the most obnoxious call on the planet, and it's called a kookaburra.
Josh Dub and Mully, if you ever somehow come across this, take this thing out for me, please. You're Australians. Do us all a favor.
John and the rest of the Marines absolutely hate these birds because of how obnoxious they are, to the point that they start opening fire on the birds whenever they hear them just to get them to shut the fuck up. At which point the chain of command is like, you guys need to stop. You can't keep shooting at these tiny birds with Browning machine guns, okay? Quit it. They didn't. They kept doing it, and then whenever the chain of command asked what they were doing, they would say they thought they saw a Japanese spy just to get these birds to be quiet. This goes on for months, just hanging out in the woods, recovering, shooting at these annoying birds, and then by May, John finds out that he is going to be awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions on Guadalcanal. Initially, he is told that he's going to go back to the United States.
He's probably cool, whatever, but he's already going home. He's probably like, no, I want to stay here with my men.
And FDR himself is going to put the Medal of Honor around John's neck in front of his friends and family in his hometown. But John doesn't really feel like he deserves it, or he has feelings that there's other men that deserve it just as much as he does. He said, and I quote, I just happened to be there. Anyone would have done the same in my place. And because
you walked barefoot multiple times to go get ammo. Not a lot of people would have done that.
of this, he feels like that Medal of Honor doesn't just belong to him, it also belongs to his men. So he actually opted to have the Medal of Honor ceremony in Australia on May 21st with his men present. And at this point, the Marine Corps realizes they have a unique opportunity. They've got John Basilone, this young, good-looking, 185-pound brick shithouse of a Marine that's got 19 knockouts in boxing and the Medal of Honor around his neck. And they ship him back home, and he's going to be doing war.
Yeah. Yep. Smile and wave, yeah. Hey, look at this guy. He's a badass. Look, this is what you could be. But men like him need your money.
On tours to raise money for the war. For the next month, John gets paraded around the United States with the goal of raising $15 billion in war bonds. And in less than
Christ, that's a big number. Best for way back then.
30 days, he raises $19 billion. And John Basilone hates absolutely every second of it. He did not want to leave his men, and he definitely does not want to get paraded.
I would say that was the whole reason why he wanted the Medal of Honor awarded to him. in Australia.
Around the United States, giving talks and speeches. It reminds him of being in school, having to go up in front of the class, and he absolutely hates school. He just grits his teeth and bears through it, trying to do the right thing. And then eventually, after he raises all this money and the war bond tour is over, he asks to get shipped back out to rejoin his men. He is immediately denied. He's far too
Yeah, no, they're like, no, we're making way too much money off you here. No.
valuable. They cannot have the news headlines reading that war hero, Medal of Honor recipient John Basilone dies in combat, so they make him a guard at a naval shipyard.
At least make him like a trainer so he can like teach people his method and all the stuff he was doing.
This is the worst.
This goes on for months and months, just John stuck inside of a guard shack, similar to that classroom that he hated as a child. And it's just eating away at him. He starts to become an alcoholic. It's just the loneliest he's ever been in his entire life, and he hates every single second of it. And then in November of 1944, he hears word that his old unit under the command of Chesty Puller is almost wiped out at the Battle of Peleliu. And this is the last straw for John Basilone. He's not going to sit in this guard shack anymore while his men are out there fighting and dying without him. He storms into General Vandergrift's office, the same man that pinned the Medal of Honor on his chest.
I would paraphrase, and it's going to be something like this. Motherfucker, you don't want me to die out there? Chesty's out there. Put me with that him. If I'm valuable, he's valuable. I'm not going to lose my men because of this bullshit.
Australia, and tells him the newspapers are going to read one of two things. They're going to read that you had to court-martial war hero John Basilone, or they're going to read that John Basilone is returning to the Pacific. You can pick which one. And then he says, and I quote, "How's it going to look if we retake Manila and Manila John isn't there? I'm staying with my boys. They need me."
Yeah, very point.
Within days, John is given orders to report to Camp Pendleton, where he is going to lead a machine gun platoon that's getting ready to ship out to the Pacific. But before that, he's given 3 days of leave to go back home to Raritan, New Jersey, and get his affairs in order. And while he is there, he has his...
AKA, we don't think you're making it back. Therefore, go say hi to your mom.
Third and final vision, and it is alarmingly clear to him that he is going to die in combat. Despite that, it doesn't even really faze him because he knows it's his destiny. He tells his brother that he had this vision. His brother doesn't quite believe him. He gets his affairs in order and he heads off to Camp Pendleton. While there, he meets Lena, a female Marine cook, falls in love with her, and they get married almost immediately, and they have 1 month together at Camp Pendleton.
Good relations with the Wookiees, I have.
After his month in Camp
Why'd you use that clip?
Pendleton with his new bride, he ships out to Hawaii, and he's got 4 months there to train his machine gun platoon to get ready for combat. While there, John does absolutely everything he can to get his men ready for combat. He shares everything he knows. He makes sure that they know that machine gun inside and out. When they do amphibious landings, if they're able to get that machine gun onto the beach up and running, he walks up and throws wet sand into the gun himself so that they get used to clearing malfunctions. After 4 months of training in Hawaii, they're told that they're shipping out and to board this ship, and they don't even tell them where they're going yet again. Same thing
Yeah, basic strategy. You don't know who's there going to be a ally or not.
happens again a couple days out at sea. They announce over the loudspeakers that they are going to be taking part in the invasion of Iwo Jima, which translates to Sulphur Island. This is going to be nothing like anything John has ever experienced, or any other
Oof, that was like one of the worst islands in World War II.
Marine, for that matter. The entire island is not covered in jungles like all the other ones. Iwo Jima is just straight volcanic ash that looks like this. The reason they need this island is because it's the only island big enough and in the right place that they're going to be able to land the new B-24 bombers on top of, and those are going to be critical in winning the rest of the war. This
Yeah, that's where the planes had the nukes on them.
invasion is going to be absolutely massive. It's the biggest amphibious invasion in United States Marine Corps history. Over 800 warships, 250,000 men, and 70,000 Marines. John and his men are going to be landing on Red Beach too, and as the first wave lands on Red Beach, nothing really happens. There's a little bit of enemy sniper fire here and there, but there wasn't artillery, there wasn't mortars. They weren't opening up on them with machine guns while they were in the Higgins boats, and as soon as they get on the beach, there's nothing there either. So the Marines just kind of lay down and get low, trying to not be an easy target for a sniper, and then the second wave lands, and then the third, and then John's on the beach with his men on Red Beach too, and he looks out and just sees clustered Marines laying along this beach on volcanic ash that you can't dig
Yeah, well, that's kind of strange.
into, and he has the oh fuck moment and he realizes what's about to happen. The Japanese absolutely have every square inch of this beach sighted in with mortars and artillery, and there's pillboxes and bunkhouses off in the distance that are probably concealed and you just can't see them yet. Chuck Tatum, one of John Basilone's men, was laying down at the time, and he said that everybody had this feeling of like, maybe this is going to be an easy day. Maybe the Japanese got scared and they
No, they didn't.
fled and retreated already out of the gate, and we've already won. And then he hears John Basilone start screaming, "Get the fuck up and start moving up the beach or you're gonna die," as he literally starts kicking Marines in the ass and dragging them up by their collars and ordering them to push forward. And as soon as that happens, the Japanese open up with mortars, artillery.
Yep. He knew, so he was like, guys, move.
And the pillboxes unconceal themselves and start mowing down Marines with machine gun fire. There's nothing he can do about the mortars or artillery, but maybe John can do something about these pillboxes and the machine gun fire. There's one big Japanese bunkhouse up ahead that's mowing down Marines with its machine gun. John orders his men to get their machine guns up and start returning fire into the window holes of this bunkhouse. Once his men start laying...
There's the thing is, there's footage of this out there. Like, it's like fully documented, this pretty much whole invasion.
Down suppressing fire, hopefully keeping the Japanese from manning their guns effectively. John goes, he finds a demolition guy and a flamethrower, and he orders them to walk right up the machine gun's field of fire, right next to the bullets whizzing past him. It seems sketchy, but is literally the safest place to be right now. As soon as the demo man and the flamethrower almost make it to the window on the bunkhouse, John steps over his gunner, unhooks the machine gun from the tripod, grabs it by the handle around the barrel, effectively known as a Basilone bail. After this, yells at his man to grab the ammunition and starts running up the beach as the demo man throws a satchel charge into the window and the flamethrower starts hitting all the windows with his flamethrower. John runs all the way up the beach. He runs up the hill that this bunkhouse is built into, and once he gets to the top of the hill, while holding the gun in his hands, he mows down all the Japanese running out the backside of the bunkhouse.
Like, the music, you can tell something bad's about to really happen.
At the top of the hill, John can see the airfield they need to take off in the distance, so he gets his machine gunner set up, gets the men that he has set up in a defensive position, and goes back down the beach to get the rest of his men, just like his mentor Chesty Puller would. He makes it back to the base of the beach, he gets all of his men, and they start making their way up the beach to secure this position. And then suddenly, John and 5 of his men are hit with a mortar, killing all of them. John Basilone is credited with saving dozens, if not hundreds of Marines with his actions on the beach that day. For this, he was nominated for a second Medal of Honor, but by this point in time, it had become common practice to never award the Medal of Honor twice. So he was posthumously awarded a Navy Cross and a Purple Heart, becoming one of the most decorated Marines of all time. And many of the Marines that he saved that day would go on to take Iwo Jima and ultimately win World War II. And that is the story of John Basilone, Manila John, the greatest machine gunner to ever live. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Whack bang out. I absolutely hate endings like that.
Yeah, we all do, Nick. We all do. Because you want our heroes to come back, but... Oh, wait, there's more? Hold on. Before I get to my final thoughts.
Sergeant, can you tell us something about how you happened to get this medal? You must have mowed them down.
Yes, sir. I was in a good outfit with good men. I just happened to be there, and any man would have done the same in my place.
Spoken just like a Marine. Can you tell us, Sergeant, something about how you happened to get this Congressional Medal of Honor?
Yes, sir. I was in a good outfit with good men. I just happened to be there, and anyone would have done the same in my place.
Spoken just like a Marine. Sergeant, where does your old man come from?
My father comes from Naples.
What makes it worse is he's like, he knew it was going to happen. Like, that's the worst part about it, was he was like, he had a vision that he was not going to make it, and then... yeah, it's sad. Like, not all heroes do make it home. That is the sad reality of war. So, and that's why you gotta, like, need people like the Fat Electrician telling these stories so it doesn't get forgotten. Like, yeah, like, history books gloss over the names. They gloss over stuff. But, like, the Fat Electrician channel is probably never going away, ever. It'll stand this time, people look at it, and I'm just, then stories like this, like, history teachers and academias are eventually going to start, like, being like, okay, yes, he does curse a bit, but he's doing it right. But that's it. That's all I have. I'll see weird people later.